Shalom Alecha again. We're at the ancient city of Korazim, and technically speaking, if you think about a triangle, we're at the top of a triangle, not a perfect equilateral triangle, but a triangle nevertheless. And here at Korazim, you would say Bethsaida is roughly 3 miles this way, where we just were in this discipleship lesson part 2. And we're at the top of the triangle, north of the Sea of Galilee, which is 600 feet below sea level. We're above sea level right now. And Capernaum. We're at Korazim, so Capernaum is going to be this way, roughly 3 miles in terms of that triangle. And we know Jesus' words when he talks about, woe to you, Korazim, woe to you, Bethsaida. If the miracles happened in you, that have happened every place else, you would have believed, but woe to you. And it's also to Capernaum as well. So he mentions the 3 cities of the triangle. And one aspect of the 3 cities of the triangle, these are deeply religious Jewish people. Some of the greatest rabbis of Judaism come from this area. Akiva from Capernaum and so on. But we come here to continue our lesson from Bethsaida. And indeed, as we come here, we say, what are the aspects of life for those who are going to become disciples of Yeshua? What are things that they understood that we have no comprehension of, and that we should come back and try to understand? That understanding is buried here in the culture. I'm at the entrance of a typical Jewish home, and the one that we're looking at is probably Byzantine. Everything here seems to be dated to about the 4th century AD or 4th century CE, depending on the way you want to write the dating of the Common Era. But as we take a look at this Jewish home, and we take a look at the ones at Bethsaida, and they have 2 of them there. You could look it up on the internet, and or look it up in other books. At Bethsaida, they have 2 insula, as they're called. One of them is the winemaker's insula, and the other one is the fisherman's insula. What we have here is a 4th century, so 4th century, that's 300, 320, 350, 380 AD. When, we don't know exactly, maybe early 4th century. But we have another insula. Now here, we don't have any records from the archaeologists who owned this house. Is this a fisherman's house? Probably not a fisherman, since we're 3 miles from the Sea of Galilee. But who owned this, who lived here, we don't know. But I'm coming into the courtyard. As I come in through off the main street, coming into the courtyard that would have been wide open under the sun. And around me, perhaps here, perhaps in the back, I'm thinking more over here, are going to be the living places. And so in Jesus' day, if a young man is going to get married, he would actually bring his bride home to his father's house, and his father would allow him to build a room on the addition. And so the bride and the bridegroom, when they're married, they would consummate their marriage, and they would have 1 year, approximately 1 year, to have the room to themselves, and then it becomes common property. And that's where I want to begin with this. Unity, one. What's really interesting in here, as we talk about that, the bridegroom and the bride, when they come in here, they have a chance to enjoy their new love together in privacy, almost on a daily basis. However, after 1 year, they become part of the insula. They become one. There's that family aspect to it, but on top of that, it's a oneness with the rest of the community. This is the issue that I want to bring up, because what is part of the culture of Peter, of Andrew, James and John? Remember, we talked about in the last video at Bethsaida that there's likelihood that James and John were from Bethsaida as well. Philip. So we have 5 of these disciples, and all the rest of them lived in conditions like this. It's a oneness, it's a unity, it's community. And I think in our Western society, in our Western church, the 21st century church, we do not understand this. a oneness in our family, a oneness in our neighborhood. I mean, this is an insula in a neighborhood of insulas. A oneness in our faith. And these disciples understood this unity because of this culture. And that's an aspect of becoming a disciple. A disciple does not act alone. I know so many times when we talk about the typical word used in 21st century church, evangelism. And everybody says that means preach the gospel and win souls. Well, it doesn't mean that. It means that today. But evangelism comes from a Greek word that basically means tell the good news. Doesn't say anything about winning souls. That's modern church theology. An evangelist is somebody that tells the good news. And telling the good news, it could very well be if somebody accepts the Lord indeed, that you would have them baptized and become a disciple.